There are nights when the city has turned off every last light, and the outside world is reduced to nothing but the whisper of wind brushing gently against your window. On nights like these, you don't need anyone to say anything more. You don't need another podcast. You don't need meditation, music, or a list of 5 things to do before sleep. What you need is a space quiet enough to let yourself rest, a voice soft enough not to wake you, a sentence honest enough that you don't have to brace yourself one more time. And if tonight happens to be a night like that, a night when you feel the emptiness settling in the very place you once thought would bring you peace, a night when you've tried hard enough to know you're tired but still haven't found a way to lay your burdens down, a night when you're too weary to keep trying to understand or endure them, this video is no accident. It's an invitation to stop trying. This is not just a video to fall asleep to. This is 1 hour of Stoic philosophy to fall asleep, to a journey of quiet that asks for no explanations, a companionable voice with no rush to be right, a gentle whisper, guiding you back to each breath, no hurry, no pressure, no goal. When night finally draws a curtain over all the noise, that's when you step into a space that belongs only to you, a space where no one asks you to change, where no one pushes you to become a better version of yourself, where no one judges your fatigue or your unreadiness. This is just a place where you are enough to rest, enough to let go of every role, every mask, every burden you have carried through the day. And as Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself in the stillness of night, if you seek tranquility, do less, or more accurately, do what's essential. True stillness doesn't come from doing more. It comes from daring to do less, from recognizing what truly matters and leaving the rest outside your door before you lay yourself down in bed. In that moment, the thin hush of the wind outside your window, the golden glow of a hallway lamp, everything seems to be quietly whispering to you that Stoic philosophy isn't a system of lessons. It's the gentle pulse of a heart in the middle of a long night. It doesn't need you to fix anything else. It doesn't demand you to be stronger. It only wants to remind you that you are enough to rest, enough to be at peace, enough to be simply yourself. You don't need to end today the right way. You don't have to become anyone else. You don't need to set a new goal for yourself tonight. Just open your heart and stay a while. Maybe you'll drift off during the first chapters. Maybe you'll let your thoughts wander and not feel any need to catch them. That's perfectly fine, because sometimes what you need most isn't the perfect sleep, it's simply the sense that even if things aren't finished, you're still allowed to rest. You're still allowed by someone, even if it's only a whisper in the night, to be reminded that you are enough. If, tonight, you notice something inside you softening, hold on to it. No reason needed, no explanation required. And if on another night you need somewhere to come home to, just play this video again. It will still be the same gentle whisper, the same sense of quiet. Still you and a friend who's listening, never judging, never rushing, just sitting with you until you truly believe. Sleep is not the end, but a different kind of beginning for you. 1. Let go of the long day. You have done enough. There are nights that begin just like this, not with the sound of an alarm, not with a missed call, not with any clear event at all. It's simply, you lie down. The lights are off. Everything outside has settled into stillness. But inside, things are not quiet yet. Your mind keeps quietly walking forward, as if it hasn't realized the day is over, as if it's afraid that if it stops for a moment, something important might be missed. You thought you were tired, but somehow you're still awake. You're not really thinking about anything in particular, but everything seems to return, layer by layer, like doors left open in a house no one is watching over. A word from earlier in the day, a meeting left unfinished, someone who didn't really understand you, a message that went unanswered. a sigh you had to swallow so the world around you wouldn't be disturbed. And then you ask your why, am I so tired? And yet still unable to rest. Maybe deep down you're still trying to prove something, not to others, but to yourself, that you've done enough, that you've lived right, that you deserve peace. But the trouble is, the standard of enough, you never make it clear. It shifts every time you get close. It rises each time you think you might finally reach it. And tonight, like so many nights before, you lie here in the dark with an invisible list of things unfinished, not quite right, not quite good enough. You're not alone in this. The modern world makes all of us believe that rest is a privilege earned only by those who finish everything. That you only get to breathe once everything is perfect. But that is a sweet, cruel lie. Because the truth is, no one can ever finish everything. No one is ever whole all the time. And no one, not even you, needs to be that way in order to rest. You have tried. You have given what you could within the bounds of your own life. Maybe no one else sees that, but you know. And that's enough. You don't need another test. You don't need to analyze whether you deserve to let go. Rest is not a reward. It is a condition. It is a sacred space for you to return to yourself, without pressure, without roles, without an audience. You have lived like a soldier, someone who kept their heart quiet so as not to hurt anyone, strong enough to hold the weight, kind enough to never leave anyone behind. But tonight, you don't need to hold anything anymore. You can let your shoulders drop. You can let your body sink gently into the bed. Like a warrior returning home, after the battle, no explanations, no storytelling, just sitting down, closing your eyes, and knowing you are still here. You made it this far. Marcus Aurelius, the man who once carried an empire on his shoulders, wrote a reminder for himself. Do not let the image of your whole life weigh you down. Do only what is in front of you, like it's the last thing you'll ever do. And that is the message I want to give you tonight. You don't need to carry the whole month, the whole year, or a future not yet here. You only need to loosen your grip on this day that has passed. Whether it was a success or not, whether it was easy or filled with unfinished things, it's over now, and you are still here. If there is something you regret, let it melt into your breath. If there is something you forgot, let tomorrow carry it. If there is something you wished to receive from someone else, but didn't, let it fall away like the last breeze of the day. You don't need to carry all of it into your sleep. Sleep is the doorway back to stillness, and stillness asks nothing of you. It does not need you to prove yourself. It does not need you to be perfect. It just asks you to be present, here, now. So you can set it all down now. Every weight, every question, every reason you've ever felt not enough. It doesn't have to make sense. You don't have to wait for permission. All you need is to agree with yourself. I have done enough. And if you are still here, I am not going anywhere either. We'll continue not to do anything more, but to remember what has always been in you, but was forgotten among all the burdens you've had to carry. Because sometimes what you need is not advice, but a whisper at just the right time. And that's why even in sleep, we need stoic wisdom. Not because stoicism makes you fall asleep faster, not because it lets you escape what's been troubling your mind, but because it teaches you how to remain with yourself even when no one else is by your side, in the night, in the stillness, in that stretch of time when the world seems to have forgotten you. Stoic thinking won't tell you, don't be sad. It only quietly asks, if this sadness remains, can you breathe with it? And the answer isn't in words. It's in the feeling you have right now, when no one needs your response, when no one is judging you, when you are finally allowed to exist without needing to explain. And if you close your eyes, know isn't because you're too tired to stay awake, but because you're ready to let yourself drop into the gentlest presence of who you are, then know. You are living the way Marcus reminded himself each day. Do not act as if you will live forever. Death is close. Live as if today is your last. So if this is your last day, then let it be the day you lived enough. And if this is your last night, let it be the night you finally let go. No one else's approval is needed. Nothing has to be perfect. All that matters is you accept yours quietly, kindly, completely, because you have done enough. And because there is no one else in this world who can give you peaceful sleep except for you. Now, let us move on to the next chapter, where sleep and Stoic wisdom don't just meet, but blend into each other like a silent prayer. 2. Sleep and Stoic thinking. While you rest, your mind still trains. There are nights when you don't go to sleep because you're tired, but simply because you have no reason left to stay awake. Everything that needed doing has passed. Everyone has retreated into their own spaces, and you're left lying there, no noise, no demands, nothing urgent to attend to, yet peace still feels just out of reach. And so, as if by a quiet habit, you drift into sleep like a soldier returning from the front. No triumph, no celebration. Only the relief of coming home to no one noticing. We often tell each other, go to bed so you can wake up early, as if sleep were only a technical step to prepare for what's next. But rarely do we think of sleep as an act of living in itself. And to sleep with a Stoic mindset is not to abandon yourself, but to step consciously into a sacred space where the mind no longer has to process, but is allowed to rest, yet rest with direction. The Stoic mind does not divide the day into bright and dark, work and rest, waking and dreaming. It sees all of life as one continuous stream. If daytime is the time for right action, then nighttime is your time to return, not to calculate, but to listen, not to do more, but to gently remove the armor you wore all day. Marcus Aurelius, man who lived through endless battles, an emperor alone in his radiant palace, wrote in his meditations, "Even in sleep, my mind does not leave itself." He understood that closing your eyes does not switch off awareness. On the contrary, it is in sleep that what you choose to hold on to goes in deepest. Not the words you say aloud, but the things you believe, the truths you cannot voice, the silent phrases you repeat in your own heart. If what you carry into sleep is tension, regret, or self-reproach, then tomorrow you will not wake with fresh eyes. You will rise with a mind that has been poisoned through the night. But if you enter sleep like someone who knows they have lived as best they could, knowing they are not perfect but still enough, trusting that what needs fixing will be handled in time, then you are not just resting, you are being renewed. The Stoic does not go to sleep to escape reality. He lays down his shield and spear, washes his hands, splashes cold water on his face, and enters his small room not to be praised, but to simply be a person again. No need to prove anything. He does not need to know what tomorrow holds. All he needs to know is that tonight he has lived by reason, acted with virtue, and did not let what is beyond his control take over his soul. And if something remains some mistake, an answer left wanting, an apology left unsaid, he places it on the table. Not to forget, but to acknowledge. Then he enters sleep, as if stepping into a silent temple, no sermon, no doctrine, just presence, just breathing and acceptance. I don't know if you'd call that prayer, but you have, at least once, placed your hand on your chest as night falls, not to check your heartbeat, but to soothe an unnamed worry. That thing, even without a name's a form of faith. No religion is needed, only God in your own way. Something bigger than you, holding you when you finally agree to let everything else go. And perhaps It is in that moment when you lay down with that quiet trust that you are at your most stoic, because you do not need to know what is coming. You only need to know that you have lived as fully as you could, and now you rest, not to escape, but because you need the quiet. In this philosophy, sleep is not an ending. It is part of the moral act. A person may stay awake all day, yet still be cruel to themselves through the night. But the Stoic chooses to sleep as an act of self-love, in wakefulness. He goes to bed as one would enter a sanctuary, laying down weapons, words, and carrying only a bare, peaceful mind. If you can do that, tonight no technique needed, no perfection required, just letting go of what you can no longer hold, then you have already started to live as a Stoic, not in the light, but in the stillness. And if you feel ready, let us move quietly to the next chapter, not to learn anything more, but to truly begin letting go of each muscle, letting go of each breath, letting go of every unsettled memory. Because sleep meditation is the journey that brings you home by the very gentleness you so often give to others. 3. Guided sleep meditation, coming home to yourself. Let everything slow down now. There's no need to rush, no need to try. There's nothing more for you to do tonight, except to simply stay here in this moment where you don't have to become anyone else, don't have to prove anything. I don't have to finish another role you've played all day. All the sounds outside have faded into the distance, and if there is anything inside you that still stirs, let it be. Tonight doesn't ask you to be instantly calm. It only invites you to slow down, like a train returning to its station after a long journey. Meditation, in the Stoic sense, is not a technique for banishing emotions. It's a way of not letting them rule over you. It doesn't force you to empty your mind or teach you to banish thoughts. It simply shows you how to stay with whatever is here, but with new eyes. Eyes that know how to look without fear, touch without clinging, breathe without having to win or be right. And if there is any time of day most fitting to live that way, it is this time, when you've done enough, when there is no one left to answer, when no one is waiting for your reply, when you can look back at the day not as a race run, but as someone who steps back for a moment just to see if you have lived with heart or just hurried along without pause. Close your eyes, not to shut out everything, but to open up something inside you that's been waiting to be heard. Today may not have been perfect, but it is over, and you are still here. There may still be shards left inside, a word you wish you hadn't said, something you wish you'd done differently, a person you're not sure if you hurt or not. None of that needs to be sorted out now. Let your mind look at them as if you're standing on the far side of a river, watching the water flow by. Not jumping in, not resisting, just quietly watching and letting the current take it all away. We call this awareness. No judgment, no clinging, no need to explain, just seeing and realizing that there are things in life you cannot change, that there are people who come and go and you cannot hold them back, that some reactions within you are simply instinct. But even so, you still have the chance not to be defined by those reactions. Tonight is your chance, and if tomorrow is a new door, you can step into it a little lighter. Imagine yourself standing before tomorrow, with all its possibilities, rejection, unexpected events, quiet worries that could appear at any time. Not to fear, but to be familiar. Not to brace yourself, but to accept. Whisper to yourself, if those things happen, I have already seen them. I've sat with them tonight, and I won't be surprised. I don't need everything to go my way. I only need enough stillness to welcome what comes. Premeditatio malorum, Stoics called this imagining the worst. But truly, it is the mind's way of detoxing itself before the world throws you into its currents. And tonight, you are doing just that, not to control the future, but to avoid being swept away by it. Now, let your body soften just a little more. Let your shoulders fall as if dropping the backpack you've carried all day. Don't force yourself to fully relax. Just notice where there is tension and breathe into it, gently. Inhale, receiving peace. Exhale, letting it carry away what you no longer need to hold, like a gentle wave, like wind slipping past your eaves, like the steady rhythm of your heart, quiet but unwavering. No need to count breaths, no need for techniques. All you need is to listen. And if any sound arises around you, the distant traffic, the swirling wind, someone else awake in the night, don't try to shut it out. Let it remain part of the night's landscape and return your attention to yourself. Every sound can become a lullaby if you don't resist. Every sound can carry you to sleep if you simply let go. And if thoughts continue to arrive, that's fine. Don't try to force them away. Just notice, a thought is passing by. Then breathe. Then let it drift away, like a cloud, like a guest who doesn't stay. Each time you do this, you are practicing mindfulness, not to achieve anything, but to be free, to be present without being thrown off course by things you cannot touch. No one can stay by your side forever, but you can choose to stay with yourself, at least for tonight. And if you do that, you don't need anyone's approval, because in that quiet presence, you are already being restored. Just stay, breathe, and give yourself permission to do nothing at all. You don't need to hold it together. Don't need to worry about tomorrow. Don't need to become anyone new. You are already yourself, and you are returning home with every breath, with every gentle letting go, with every silence that opens before you slip into dreams, not to escape, but to be reborn. And if you are still here, you are ready to step into the next chapter where you will learn the art of gratitude, not because life is perfect, but because you are still breathing, still returning to yourself. And that is miracle enough for one night. And if your heart still feels uneasy, if something in you quietly resists this rest, don't try to force it away. Just stay with it a little longer. Don't ask why it's there. Don't rush to understand. Maybe it's the echo of something long forgotten, a wound you haven't named, a memory you haven't forgiven yourself for. Or maybe it's just the random sorrow that all of us carry now and then. You don't need to push these things out. You only need to open your heart and let them rest too. Not everything within you needs to be fixed. Some things only need to breathe with you. And if you're exhausted from trying to live well, think positive, or stay calm, know that tonight does not ask that of you. Tonight does not require you to be better. Tonight only wants you to return to yourself, as you are, as you have always been, someone who has tried, someone learning to love themselves, one slow breath at a time. Don't rush to meditate as a skilled person. Just breathe as someone who is alive. And if in that breath you find a softness you've never known before, let it remain. Don't name it. Don't analyze. Don't do anything with it. Just know what you thought you lacked was always here, quiet, waiting for you to come home, waiting for you to stop searching for something else to be worthy of, waiting for you to stop wandering so far from your own heart. Now, listen to your heartbeat, not because there's anything to check, but because it is the only sound that never lies to you. When all the other voices fade, when everyone else leaves the frame, when there is no one needing your reply, that heartbeat remains. The evidence that you are alive, that you get to be alive. A gift that needs no wrapping, no permission, no reason, only your acceptance and your gratitude. If tonight you let go of any part of yourself you've already meditated, you don't have to sit up straight. don't have to hold your mind still. Just stay, light as wind, soft as water, complete as yourself. Don't try to move quickly. Don't force perfect silence. Stillness is what comes after you stop requiring yourself to be still. And sometimes, deep meditation doesn't start with the absence of noise, but with accepting that there is noise within you. With your next exhale, imagine sending a sadness far away, not because you hate it, but because it's lingered long enough. Now it's time for both of you to rest. Sleep will come like an old friend. No need to knock, no need to announce itself. All you have to do is open your heart. And if you happen to fall asleep somewhere in these lines, that is a blessing, because you do not need to finish this meditation in order to rest. You only need to let go. 4. Gratitude. Unlocking the door to peaceful sleep. There is a door you can only open with empty hands, with a mind that's softened, with a presence that carries no expectations. That door is called gratitude. It doesn't ask you to become someone who is always positive, doesn't require you to deny the things that hurt you, doesn't make you smile while storms rage inside. It just stands there, waiting for you to knock gently, and if you are willing to slow down, it will open not because you got everything right, but simply because you stopped running. Gratitude is one of the simplest gestures your mind can offer itself before rest. No journal required. No need to meditate in perfect posture. Nothing elaborate. Just you, right now, in this space, quietly thinking of one thing, no matter how small that makes you feel. Ah, there's still something left for me. Maybe it's the pillow beneath your head. Not everyone has one. Maybe it's the blanket you're wrapped in. Not everyone is warm enough. Maybe it's the steady breath you just released. A breath no one reminded you to take, with nothing blocking it, no one else's intervention. Just you. And the sheer fact of being alive. Don't worry if you can't find anything grand to be grateful for today. Life isn't always radiant, but it is always here. And gratitude doesn't require dazzling light. It only asks that you have something, however small, to hold on to, like the faint lamp at the end of a long hallway. Maybe it's just a friend who texted you hello this morning. Maybe it's the glass of water you drank when thirsty. Maybe it's the moment you could sit quietly in your room, with no one calling, no one asking you to fix anything. When you think about that, even in silence, even without words, you are already healing yourself without needing anyone else. Because gratitude is the subtlest act of freedom. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need to wait for more. You only need to notice something within you is still alive, still in love with life, even after all its weariness. Seneca once wrote, "It doesn't take much. Just don't forget you've been given one more day." That line doesn't shout, doesn't preach, doesn't command you to be grateful as a duty. It just whispers, like a father sitting beside his child at bedtime, reminder that simply remembering you are still here means you already have everything. And if your heart still feels empty, if you had a day so weary you don't want to recall anything at all, you can begin with 3 very small, very real, very near things. Try whispering to yourself, no need for sound, before you close your eyes. I am grateful that I am still breathing. I am grateful that I have this quiet moment. I am grateful that I am learning to come home to myself. If even these 3 don't feel like enough, replace them with whatever is closer to your heart. A hug you received, a song that brought tears, a small animal you saw in the park that made you smile, a moment you looked up at the sky for a second. None of these are big reasons, but sometimes it's these not big things that keep us going on days when nothing else is clear. And if tonight you repeat this like a habit, like a soft prayer at the day's end, you're planting a gentle seed in your sleep. You don't have to tend it. You don't have to wish for it to sprout. Just lay it down and let time do the rest. Because what you are grateful for will remain with you longer than any plan. Gratitude does not blind you. It doesn't erase pain, but it keeps pain from being the only thing you carry when you close your eyes. It lets you know you are not completely abandoned, that even if the world is tangled, even if the good things have not yet arrived, you still have something to place your hand upon, like this pillow, like this breath, like a night quiet enough for you to simply be yourself without a role. Stay with those 3 gratitudes a little longer. Repeat them if you wish. Hold them in your heart, not just your mind, because true gratitude does not live in your head, it lives somewhere deeper. And if you forget them by morning, that's all right. Your body will remember, your heartbeat will know, and your mind, even in dreams, will move more gently through the night. And if tonight you have laid down the day and held on to just those 3 small things, you have already unlocked a door, not to anywhere else, but to yourself. And in the next chapter, you will be reminded of what you may not have dared to believe for years, that you do not need to be perfect to deserve rest. 5. You don't have to be perfect to rest. You've already laid yourself down, yet inside, there is still a voice that won't settle. It isn't loud, it isn't fierce, but it's persistent, soft, yes, just enough to keep you from truly resting. Like someone standing at the foot of your bed, not scolding, not commanding, but simply watching you, as if to say, you're still not enough. And so you begin again, taking inventory, remembering, turning over each drawer of memory from the day. What did I not do well? What did I say wrong? What did I forget? Who did I disappoint? And once again, you tense even in the dark, even when you're already so tired. We were never taught how to rest before everything is finished. We learn to postpone ourselves as if it were a habit, always putting it off, waiting for things to feel better, waiting to be worthy. And perhaps the saddest thing is, we start to believe that rest is a kind of reward knot, something that is part of our human nature, that only when we've done it right, done enough, done well, do we deserve to put the burdens down. But if you're lying here now, in the night, with eyes that won't quite close, with a heart breathing hard beneath nameless shame, then let me say to you, not with arguments, but with what you most need to hear tonight, you don't have to be perfect to rest. You don't need to be okay to breathe. You don't have to be fully healed to let go. You're allowed to be tired. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to be soft without apologizing to anyone at all. The fatigue you feel is not a sign that you're failing. Sometimes it is proof that you have lived far too earnestly, that you have loved even when it wasn't returned, that you have tried even when things did not work out, that you kept peace for other 7 when your own soul was an untamed sea. And though others may not see it, you know, and that is enough. There's nothing to prove. Epictetus once said something so simple and yet so liberating. He who does not demand perfection from the world is the one who is truly free. You don't need a flawless world to be at peace, and you don't need to be a flawless person to rest. All you need is one thing: acceptance. Not acceptance that everything is good, but acceptance that right here, in this moment, you are enough to let go. Imagine you're standing in a house still under construction. The floor isn't finished. The doors aren't hung. Wires are still showing from the ceiling. But there's a chair set in the middle. And you can sit down, just sit. You don't need the house to be done before you're allowed to rest, because sitting needs no permission. It's what you were made for when you're tired. Rest is the same. You don't have to wait to get better. Don't have to wait for praise. Don't need anyone else to come and tell you, now you're allowed. Just you and your breath. That's enough. So if you are still breathing, you are still allowed to stop. If you still feel incomplete, then resting is exactly how you begin to become whole again. Not by proving anything, but by trusting. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Let your breath soften, just a little. Grow lighter. You don't have to control the rhythm. Just notice you are still alive. And living doesn't always mean doing something. Sometimes, living is simply staying, simply breathing, simply knowing that you do not need to be perfect to be loved. At least, by yourself. If you've ever felt that rest only comes when everything is done, then tonight, begin a new way. Rest first. Continue later. Let go first. Figure it out after. Because the strongest people are not the ones who never stop. They are the ones who dare to sit down among all that's unfinished and say to themselves, I am still learning, and I deserve peace even in the process. You don't have to win the inner battle every day. Just don't make it harder for yourself. Just for now, place your hand over your heart and softly say, I don't need to be perfect tonight. I just need to be here with myself, like a friend. And if you do that, then you are living as a true Stoic, not with iron will, but with a compassion wide enough to stop forcing yourself to be anyone else or not, even for a single night. And if you've allowed yourself to sink down like someone who doesn't have to brace any longer, then the next chapter will be where you meet another version of yourself, the one who still dreams, who still has hopes, and sometimes even nightmares. But this time, you will not run. You will learn how to listen. 6. Peace is a choice, not a reward. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, you don't hear anything clear, but you feel a quiet movement inside, as if something in you just exhaled. Not quite relief, not quite happiness, just something is not as rigid as it was a few minutes ago. Maybe it's your neck, always tense since morning. Maybe it's your shoulders, tight from bracing every time you enter a room that isn't home. Maybe it's your heart still unsure what tomorrow will bring, but finally, not fighting so hard. We are so often taught that peace is a reward, that it arrives when we have done well enough, when we have conquered our challenges, when others approve of us, when the world becomes a little kinder. But the truth is, if you wait for peace as something that requires conditions to unlock you, will find yourself always stepping back and back again, as if it's forever hiding behind another door. Another task to finish, another mistake to fix, another person to come back, another, more perfect version of you that needs to be born first. The world may not have softened yet. The questions within you may still linger, but you can still be at peace, because peace has never been what happens when everything outside is okay. It comes the moment you stop demanding, when you stop trying to control, when you accept, not the kind of acceptance that tastes bitter, but a lighter kind, like a whisper that says you don't need to understand everything. You don't have to fix it all tonight. You don't have to be healed before you can breathe. Peace is not the absence of pain. It's what happens when you stop letting pain take up all the space inside you. It's the moment you realize worries might still be here, but you don't scramble to chase them away anymore. You let them sit with you for a while, like a visitor. Not close, but not terrifying either. Just a guest passing through. And it leaves, finally, when you stop holding it with resistance. Maybe you've thought you would only be allowed peace once others stop hurting you, once they change, once they apologize. But if you wait for that to feel calm, then you've handed your right to peace into someone else's hands. And that is not freedom. Epictetus, a wise man who lived through the world's storms as both a slave and a philosopher once reminded us, He who does not demand perfection from the world is the one who is truly free. And I think it's never truer than now when you are lying here with only your breath, with no one needing you to do any except yourself. You don't need peace as a medal at the end of the race. You can choose it right here, even as everything is still unfinished, even if your heart is not yet steady, even if your eyes won't close just yet. Peace doesn't arrive like a shining gift. It comes like an old friend, sitting beside you, saying nothing at all, just placing a hand on your shoulder and not asking why you're sad anymore. If you have ever blamed yourself for not being good enough to deserve rest, then tonight, try stepping back, not to escape, but to see you are not an unfinished draft. You are a person making your way through truly hard days and still managing to be gentle with someone, sometimes with yourself. And if tomorrow night you are still not calm, if something still quietly keeps you from resting fully, you can come back here. I will still be here with you, not to teach you anything new, but to remind you of what you have always known, that you don't need to do anything more to be at peace. And if you want, you can leave a few words, no need to write much, no need to explain, just so I know you too are learning the art of peace. And if you are still breathing, you still have a choice. Peace does not come from perfectly managing every emotion. It comes when you realize you don't need to control anymore, when you simply sit and stop running, when you say to yourself, no matter how fast the world spins, I can sit quietly right here. Maybe you won't fall asleep right away, but you can let go, one thought at a time, one feeling at a time, one little expectation you don't want to brace yourself for anymore. And if you can do that, you've already begun to enter your own peaceful place. And if you're here now, in that softening moment, the next chapter will be the door that leads you into the deeper places of yourself, where dreams, memories, and even nightmares have a voice. Not to frighten you, but to remind you that even the deepest parts of your unconscious are only seeking to be understood. 7. The Journal of Dreams and Nightmares. When the unconscious speaks. There are nights when you wake up not remembering what you dreamed. You rise with only a vague sense that something happened in your sleep, not quite in the real world, but not pure imagination either. As if a part of you, a part you cannot touch in daylight, had spoken for itself, whispering something important, and then faded quietly away at dawn. And you lie there among the blankets, trying to hold on to the trace of that dream, but it has vanished like mist. We often live as if dreams are not real, as if they are some dim realm unworthy of attention. But to the Stoic and to anyone who has learned to turn inward, a dream is never just an accident. It's a kind of language, not written in words, not spoken in sound, but in symbols, images, emotions, the things your mind hides while awake, but breathes out quietly when it is no longer under control. Every dream is a message from the deepest part of you. It doesn't come to be solved. It comes to be witnessed, to be seen, to be heard. You don't need to understand it all. You only need not to ignore it, because every time you listen to a dream, you are listening to yourself, not the version you use to step out into the world, but the rougher, more instinctive, truer self, the one who no longer needs to hold up an image. And then there are nights, not of sweet dreams, but of nightmares, images that jolt you awake, feelings with no name that send your heart racing the moment your eyes open. We usually want to forget these quickly, but what we forget too quickly might just be what is still staying, quietly, unhealed. A nightmare is not something wrong. It is an expression of a part of you on that hasn't been listened to for long enough, a pain unnamed, a memory repressed, a longing never spoken aloud. It's not here to frighten you. It's here so you will finally look. And if you are quiet enough, Honest enough, you might see that nightmares have their own language, not for you to analyze, not to solve, not to become more enlightened, but simply to know the shadowy parts of you deserve space to breathe too. Sometimes, the only thing a pain ever asks for is to be looked at without judgment. When you wake from a dream, pleasant or not to turn away. Try writing down whatever you remember. An image, a feeling, a key word. Something someone said, not to figure it out, not to research, just to save a little bit of what you've just met, the part that isn't there when you're awake. And in writing it down, you are doing the deepest thing a human can do for themselves. You are witnessing your own soul without trying to dress it up. Let your dream journal be not a tool for hacking your subconscious, but an act of kindness. Like listening as a close friend tells you a strange dream. You don't need to understand, just to be present. And when you write down your own dreams, be that friend. Don't react, don't interpret, don't distort. Just hold it there, as a trace of a silent conversation between you and yourself. There are things that only appear when you are still enough to see. Not because they were never there, but because you have never been gentle enough to look at them without panic. Dreams are where those things live. They do not speak while you are running. They do not appear while you're busy trying to be fine. But they come when you are tired, when you pause, when you truly stay. And if you start to record just a piece of those dreams, not for any goal, not for any lesson, just because you know that part of you deserves to be seen too, then you have already started to heal from deeper than any advice could ever reach. Maybe you will write a line and leave it there. Maybe you won't remember much. That's all right. The simple act of opening your notebook is already an invitation, a door swinging open, a part of you being called home. No explanation needed, no one else's approval, just you listening, and that is enough. And if you keep doing this as a gentle nightly ritual before sleep or after you wake, you will gradually find dreams are no longer strangers, no longer threats. They slowly become companions, not because they are always beautiful, but because you have stopped running away from yourself. And if tonight you are brave enough to sit with the things you once tried to avoid, then the next chapter is where you'll find what you always thought you had to become before you could rest. Peace, not because you are perfect, but because you have stopped fighting what you have yet to accept. 8. Sleep is not an ending, but another beginning. Some things never need to be spoken aloud. They don't need to be declared. They don't need anyone's approval. They just need to be present long enough, deep enough, quiet enough, and that's enough to change a part of your mind. Sleep is one of those things. We often see sleep as an ending, as the final period at the close of a long day. A nameless darkness, an absence of action and control, a space we must pass through whether we want to or not. But for someone who has weathered enough exhaustion, enough thoughts that can't quite find words, enough sleepless nights staring up at the ceiling, sleep no longer feels like the end. It becomes a kind of miracle, a gateway, a gentle death you step into without fear, because you know you'll awaken as a softer version of yourself. There is nothing you have to achieve in sleep. No one is judging you while you lie still, breathing slowly, dissolving into the final exhale of the day. Like a small boat drifting away from the shore, you don't need to know where you're going, only that you're floating, and that the water, though unfamiliar, is not your enemy. And that, by itself, is enough. You don't need a plan for tonight. No goal, no pressure to fall asleep properly. All you need is to let go, layer by layer, the clothes you wore all day just to keep others happy, the shoulders you tensed every time a word stung you, the hopes you brought to bed, hoping sleep would at least make you feel better. You don't need sleep to do anything for you. You only need to let it come. The way you let the breeze pass through the curtains without resistance, without invitation, just by opening the window and letting it do what it knows. You might think sleep is something passive, but truly, to fall asleep, you need a kind of deep trust. Trust that you don't need to be vigilant anymore. Trust that you don't have to be in control. Trust that there is nothing that needs you right now. And when you trust that you are living as a Stoic, not in the glare of a meeting room, not between advice and theory, but in the night, alone, unseen, just you and the letting go. Sleep, for those who know how to slow down, is a washing clean. No soap required, just time. You don't need to become better after a night's sleep, but you will wake, maybe with lighter eyes, maybe with one question that has finally stopped repeating, maybe just with a bit of empty space in your chest enough for the morning's light to slip in. And if you feel you've drifted far enough, far from the whirl of responsibility, of thoughts, of old reactions, then maybe you've reached the place where you no longer have to do anything at all. No more bracing to prove you deserve to rest. No need to hope tomorrow will be different. No need to cling to things you should have let go long ago. Just stay there and let your body, your mind, your soul do what they have always known to do when you stop getting in the way. Rest. Some believe that resting is laziness, that doing nothing is a fault. But truly, doing nothing sometimes the bravest act of all, because in that not doing, you are saying no to everything that is not you. You are refusing noise, refusing control, refusing hurry, and you are saying yes to something thinner, but truer. If tonight you feel something in your heart softening, keep it. No need to wrap it up, no reason needed. Just set it in a corner of your heart, something you can carry with you into your dreams. And if you need to, you can always come back here. Not because this place is special, but because you once found stillness in this very whisper, in this very presence. And sometimes all it takes is a gentle reminder to remember you don't have to go anywhere to be at peace. You just have to stop going just for a night. And so, you are not crossing the finish line of your day. You are stepping through a doorway into another beginning, not loud, not clear, but deep enough that you no longer have to grip so tightly. And if you have drifted far enough not to care where you are headed, then tonight's dream will no longer be a stranger. It will be a part of you opening, not because you summoned it, but because, at last, you paused long enough to hear your own voice. Perhaps you haven't noticed, but by staying all the way to this very last moment, you've given yourself a gift, simple yet profound. You have allowed yourself to rest fully, to lay down what's unfinished, to pass through a long night without being haunted by the things left undone or the letting go that didn't quite happen. You might not remember every word I've spoken, every piece of philosophy shared, every image that drifted through your mind. But if you felt even a small softening in your heart, if there was a moment that made you breathe slower or fall quiet, or even touch the peace you've been searching for all this time, then this journey has truly mattered. Sleep, in the spirit of Stoicism, is not just the closing of a day, but the opening of something newer, new, you, gentler and more whole, learning to forgive yourself and make room for those unnamed shortcomings. If you chose to stay tonight, hold on to this sense of lightness, and remember, you don't have to walk through everything alone. If in the days to come you find yourself wrestling with restless nights, if old voices fill your mind again, don't hesitate to return. Here it will still be this same voice, this same space, a place where you are listened to and kept safe. And if you wish to share something, leave a comment below, like a note for yourself, and for someone else who is also learning how to find peace. Who knows, maybe one day, Those words will become a small guiding light for a stranger who needs to find their way home. Wishing you a truly peaceful night, a deep, restful sleep, and a new dawn waiting just ahead. Don't forget, whatever happens, you are always worthy of this peace. And you can always return here whenever you need a place to lay your heart down, to rest, and to begin again.